Why don't people like Scorpio? In all horoscopes, Scorpios get the most. They say they are vindictive, angry, jealous, and generally it's better not to mess with them. Why do they say that about them? Each sign on the Zodiac circle has a governing planet, and some even have two. Scorpio, for example, is ruled by Pluto and Mars. Mars is somehow closer to us, in every sense. And we know more about it. This planet is belligerent. Mars is associated with wrestling, competition, physical strength, and weapons. And Pluto, whether it's a planet or not, doesn't even matter at the moment. It is important that he patronizes the Scorpio. Pluto is associated with the mythical ruler of the underworld, Hades. This object of the solar system in astrology is responsible for huge flows of energy, destructive, large-scale, for willpower, endurance, control. He performs the role of a cleaner, loosens up everything old and obsolete, destroys it, making room for a new one. And it is clear that such patrons simply cannot have a ward that is white and fluffy. So, Scorpios combined, the most striking qualities of two brothers, Mars the warrior and Pluto the general. Each sign has its own purpose, its own role. Scorpio tests himself, the world and the people around him for strength. He just can't live when everything is quiet around him. He definitely needs to understand what he is capable of, whether he can withstand intense stress, whether he can get to the truth, and find answers to the most difficult questions. Scorpio exposes all pretenders and hypocrites, and with a well-aimed remark or a trick question, he can put the interlocutor in a dead end. That is why Scorpios have gained fame as manipulators and schemers. But in fact, they like to control and influence everything. There is no greater pleasure for them than watching the situation unfold according to their scenario. Not all Scorpios are vindictive. Yes, they definitely remember the insults. But revenge can be approached in different ways. Most often they seem to forget, and then at the most unexpected moment, they can sting. Scorpios have this trait of hurting themselves to make them feel good. They strain themselves, take risks, and seek adrenaline to test their endurance and willpower. An interesting fact is that the brightest representatives of this sign often have their bodies covered with tattoos. So they test their limits. But in fairness, it should be noted that Scorpios have a lot of good features. For example, they are reliable. If you're in their circle of loved ones, you're safe. You can rely on them in an emergency because they know how to deal with problems and solve problems like no one else. Scorpios are loyal. They usually become very attached to those they love, but cheating is not forgiven. Keep in mind, it is better to immediately change your name, pack your things, and disappear in an unknown direction. Scorpios have a common nose for money and ways to earn it. They know how to twist and turn. They see the benefits in the surrounding space. They are very generous with their loved ones. They also always have everything provided for. Scorpios have a great sense of humor. If they don't overdo it with jokes on the edge, they're natural stand-up artists. A few tips for Scorpios' loved ones. For all their unapproachability and seriousness, these comrades are quite sensitive and vulnerable inside. And with their good memory, it's better not to step on their sore calluses. They are very pleased if people listen to their words and say that they were right. Scorpios can't stand the pressure on themselves. They usually need time to decide on changes, so don't push them. Out of harmfulness, a Scorpio can do exactly the opposite. I hope this sign has become clearer and maybe even closer.